restorative weekend. You're well rested. And of course, you're ready for this good week that the good Lord has afforded us. As always, we endeavor to begin, at least by inspiring you with this interesting book that we normally do. Since last week, we introduced a segment called Stories for the Heart, just to give you a quick, of course, pick me up in the morning to inspire you. And this is a book, Stories for the Heart, over 100 stories to encourage your soul, compiled by Alice Gray. Today, I'm taking an excerpt there from page 114, where it says Bullet or Seeds. It's by Richard Halverson, former chaplain of the United States Senate. And it says, you can offer your ideas to others as bullets or as seeds. You can shoot them or sow them, hit people in the head with them, or plant them in their hearts. Ideas used as bullets will kill inspiration and neutralize motivation. Used as seeds, they take root, grow, and become reality in the life in which they are planted. The only risk in the seed approach: once it grows and becomes part of those in whom it's planted, you probably will get no credit for originating the idea. But if you're willing to do without the credit, you will reap a rich harvest. So today, you have a bullet or you have a seed. Know where to plant. Remember, sometimes it can be a thankless job, but you will reap a rich harvest at the end of the day. That is Bullet or Seeds, Stories from the Heart. I hope you get inspired today. Remember always to give thanks, right? For every hill I had to climb, for every stone that bruised my feet, for all the blood and sweat and grime, for blinding storms and burning heat, my heart sings but a grateful song. Those were the things that made me strong, for all the heartaches and the tears, for all the anguish and the pain, for gloomy days and fruitless years, and for the hopes that lived in vain. I do give thanks, for now I know. These were the things that helped me grow. It's not the softer things of life which stimulate our will to strive, but bleak adversity and strife do most to keep our will alive. Over rose-strewn paths the weaklings creep, but brave hearts dare to climb the steep. Be a brave heart that dare to climb the steep. Hello, let's see what is fresh off the press this morning. Remember to give thanks, and this is what you are waking up to on the front page of a Standard today. We have a reason to give thanks. Eliud Kipchoge made it again. Eliud the Great, and you can see his eyes bugging out there with, of course, that unflappable smile of his. On a winning trot is Eliud Kipchoge, breaking the world record there. 2 hours, 1 minute and 9 seconds. This is Kipchoge's new marathon world record at the Berlin Marathon. This story is well fleshed out for you on page 3 and sports page 40 of the Standard this morning. And the splash is all about Ruto inviting 40 clerics to purify State House. Ruto invites 40 clerics to purify State House. President held Thanksgiving prayers to celebrate his election within hours after, after getting back into the country from the US, and urged the clergy to pray for his office and the economy that is shocking in debt. And you can see him, of course, with the clergy there. President William Ruto with clerics during a Thanksgiving service at State House, Nairobi, yesterday. Remember, today is Monday, and every Monday you have your health and science pull-up magazine coming in handy for you. Get all the rise as far as health and science is concerned. Passing away missions with marijuana, sick children drink, burn, bang, leaves, or inhale smoke. There has been this debate about marijuana and its healing effects. You could follow this story and find out what is happening on page 4 and 5 of the Health and Science today in the Standard. Let's see what the flagger or the teaser we have on top here has for us. Government to increase NSSF contribution. government to increase NSSF contributions. That is on national page 7 of the Standard this morning. UDA should work with fiscal truth. You can follow the story on page 10, and that is an opinion there by Dennis Kabara inside the Standard today. Elder the Great, we congratulate you. Thank you for making Kenya proud again. We honor you. Right, let's see what we have on the front page of the Daily Nation. Ebola next door. Right, this is all about Health Watch. Ebola next door. More than 5 days since the declaration of Ebola in Uganda, Kenyan officials continue to drag their feet with minimal screening at the Busia and the Malaba border post, even as the deadly virus spreads from the Mubende Ground Zero into Kampala and claims 20 victims and counting. Now, this is what you should know. First of all, avoid contact with blood and body fluids of people who have tested positive for Ebola. Avoid contact with blood and body fluids of people who have tested positive for Ebola. Caregivers and health workers should avoid touching items used by patients without gloves. Anyone who goes to an area with Ebola outbreak should monitor their health for about 21 days. Anyone who goes to an area with Ebola outbreak should monitor their health for about 21 days. Also, safe burial rites are advised, and people should avoid touching the bodies of the dead. Safe burial rites are advised, and people should avoid touching the bodies of the dead. It is just near us, next door, and you know, Ebola can be quite devastating, killing within hours. It's deadly, so we need to take precaution. And this is what is on the front page of the Daily Nation today. Still there, we have Kipchoge. This man, Kipchoge, record breaker. Kenya's Eliud Kipchoge crosses the finish line to win the Berlin Marathon race yesterday. Kipchoge smashed his own world record by 30 seconds, running 2 hours, 1 minute and 9 seconds in Berlin. The double Olympic marathon champion will also bag an estimated 13.7 million shillings for his exploits, right? That is 113,000 US dollars. Follow the story on page 35 of the Daily Nation this morning. This is how it looks. We have the star for you. Ruto turns to governors in drought crisis. This is what is on the front page of the Star today. There's a strategy there, the Shagwa, to convene meeting with county chiefs. 3.1 million Kenyans in the north are facing starvation. This story is well fleshed out for you on page 4 and 5 of the Star today. And also the milestone celebrating legend Kipchoge breaking his own record in Berlin. You can follow the story on page 48 of the Star today. And we can see the Evangelical Sanctifying State House there. We can see our leaders there, led by President William Ruto in a pious mood there, praying yesterday. Prayer time, President William Ruto and First Lady Rachel Ruto. DP Rigathi Gachagua and his wife Dorcas and NC boss Musalia Mudavadi during a Thanksgiving service at State House Nairobi yesterday. Follow the story on page 6 of the Star this morning. Now, Shoka's city man shot dead 36 times. Woman also kidnapped. Why would you do that? Well, it seems they were really wanting to obliterate this man. A man was shot dead 36 times in a puzzling attack in Mihango, Utawala, Nairobi. Police identified him as Kevin Otieno Oyimba from Busia County. An unknown number of gunmen aboard 2 vehicles cornered the man on Gesora Road and rained bullets on him, killing him on the spot. Witnesses told the police the incident happened at 1 p.m. on Friday. During the incident, a female companion who was with the man escaped unharmed. She was found traumatized and abandoned in Tasia. And you can follow this story on page 3 of the Star this morning. Talk about man's inhumanity to man. That is really barbaric. But on top here, there is a banditry attack. Anger as 8 slain cops flown to City Morgue. That is the story that you want to follow on page 34. Anger as 8 slain cops flown to City Morgue. And you can see police officers carrying some of the bodies there to the chopper to be flown to Nairobi. You can follow the story on page 34 of the Star this morning. People Daily up next. Ruto speaks tough after police deaths. And you saw the bodies there being, of course, taken to the choppers. This is what the president is speaking of tough on. And it's all about security. President vows to deploy more security to bandit-prone regions hours after the killing of 8 police officers and a chief in an ambush on Saturday night, warning that cattle rustling will be a thing of the past. And you have this story on page 4 of the People Daily this morning. Same picture, we have it here on the front page of the People Daily. In a pious mood, the Speaker of the National Assembly. We have also NC leader Musalia Mudavadi. We have the President there, President William Ruto, and the DP Rigathi Gachagua, First Lady Rachel Ruto, and also we have Dorcas Gachagua, the wife to the Deputy President, in a Thanksgiving church service held at State House, Nairobi, yesterday. Cash to be released as schools reopen. Also, oil brands recalled by Cape Steel on the shelves. You know, some of the oil brands that were listed that are not good or set for consumption, they're still in the shelves. You can follow the story on page 16. Also be aware of that so that you know which oil to avoid right now, buying from the supermarket. Kipchoge breaks on record in Berlin. Marathon legend claims 4th title as debutant. Wanjiru comes 2nd in women's category. You can follow this story inside the People Daily this morning. Ruto atakasa Ikulu, right? That is a splash of the front page of Taifa Leo. Rais mpya afanya ibada maalum ya utakaso wa makao, and it's all about the sanctification of State House. You can follow the story inside Taifa Leo. Also on the side there, Kipchoge aendelea kuvuma. That is the record-breaking time that he did at Berlin. And you can follow his story on page 19 of Taifa Leo this morning. Gavana ataka kaunti izuie Ebola. Gavana wa Kakamega ataka idara ya afya ikague watu na kufanya vipimo ili kuzuia Ebola inayotokea Uganda. Follow the story on page 5 of the Taifa Leo this morning. Everyone is on high alert right now as far as Ebola is concerned. Let's buckle down to some business. We see what the Business Daily is holding for us this morning. NSSF interest on savings hits 7-year high as income triples. This is what is on the front page of the Business Daily this morning. Fund paid 10% in the year to June last year. Its highest return since 2014 that paid 12.5%. And you can follow the story there by Otiato Guguyu inside the Business Daily on page 2. Also, Kenya Pipeline manager fight in court over disputed CV. Let's see what the story here is. A judge has dismissed a petition from the Kenya Pipeline Company to lift orders that stop disciplinary process against the head of internal audit. The parastatal over claims that the auditor overstated work experience entry in her curriculum vitae. Justice Jacob Gakeri dismissed a request from KPC to quash earlier court orders that stopped the firm from punishing General Manager Internal Audit Catherine Kaloki on allegations she overstated her work experience in a resume. You can follow the story inside the page or page 2 of the Business Daily this morning. New world record. Kenya's Eliud Kipchoge celebrates after winning the Berlin Marathon. Also, Kenya starts cashing in on Africa free trade. Kenya has shipped its first consignment of locally made batteries to Ghana 2 months after it was picked among 7 countries to pilot the continental free trade area that seeks to unlock the movement of goods and services in Africa. Good news there. Also, yellow maize importers face losses against cheaper white grain. Animal feed producers who imported yellow maize in bulk last month are staring at losses. They're staring at losses, I should say, after the price of local white maize fell below that of the imported stock, leaving them struggling to find buyers without taking a price hit. You can follow the story on page 14 of the Business Daily this morning. This is how it looks. All right, let's move on. We see what is happening in Rwanda. There is new times there. Trade is steadily rebounding after COVID-19 Minister Ngambitsise, right? That is what it says. Trade is steadily rebounding after COVID-19. This is what Minister Ngambitsise says, and you can see him here, Minister for Trade and Industry, speaking during the interview on Friday, that is September the 23rd, he said that the COVID-19 pandemic and the political and security challenges between Rwanda and neighboring countries had a significant effect on the country's cross-border trade. But things are taking a positive trajectory. Rwanda Air wins 3 accolades at World Airline Awards. And Gishwati Forest, why illegal activities persist despite conservation efforts. This story on page 3 of the New Times in Rwanda. Let's see what is happening also in the region. And we have the East African for us. We get to understand the region through the East African. Total Uganda defy EU on oil projects. Total Uganda defy EU on oil projects. Oil major CEO is headed to Brussels on October. That is October the 10th for do-or-die talks as heavy equipment arrive at the port of Mombasa and project details publicized. You can follow the story on page 4 and 5 of the East African. And unhappy citizens at the United Nations. We have a demonstration against African Union Chairman Senegal's President Macky Sall outside the country's mission in New York during the UN General Assembly on September the 20th. President Sall gave the EU's keynote. You can follow this story on page on page 20 or inside the East African. Uganda races against Ebola. So far that number is spiking. It has risen now to around 14. Countries in region heighten surveillance of rare and deadly strain at borders. You have this story on page 4 and 5 of the East African this week. Tanzania looks south. President Samia Suluhu and Felipe Nyusi agreed to tackle challenges. You can follow the story on page 3 of the East African this week. All right, let's see what is happening on the international front. Newsweek is carrying out this particular headline for you and the cover, Hooked on Hype. This is all about antidepressants work no better than sugar pill for most of the 43 million Americans who take them. You can follow the story inside the Newsweek as well. This is how it looks. Let's see what we have on the front page of Economist, the latest edition. Should Europe worry? That is the abiding question on the front page of Economist. Giorgia Meloni and the threat from the Italian right, the new prime minister there. Should Europe be worrying right now? You can follow the story inside the Economist. This is the UK edition. You have the international edition there. Boom time in the Gulf, winners from the world's turmoil. That is what is on the front page of the Economist this morning. Also, Putin doubles down. The threat from the Italian right. That is what you saw on the front page also of the UK edition there with Giorgia Meloni there. The threats from the Italian right. China's slowing economy, technology quarterly fixing the brain. You can follow the story inside the Economist, the latest edition. And we have also in the business, this is Bloomberg Business Week. This is the latest edition for you. And you can see the CEO there of Apple. This is Tim Cook, right? Who is swimming on the Apple's, the teeny tiny earpods, right? And they say the prosperous success of Apple's tiniest accessory. Those are the earpods there that you can see. They've become they hail it such a success. You can read all about that inside the Bloomberg Business Week. And finally, let's see what is happening on the latest edition of the Foreign Affairs. And this is the centennial issue, 100 years they're celebrating of Foreign Affairs magazine. And this is all the age of uncertainty, the age of uncertainty. Right, you might want to grab a copy for that. All right, let's see what we have on the editorial cartoons. And this is in the Standard. And while we'll do that, I want just to rope in our panelists who are already here. We have Danson Mungatana with us, who is a senator of Tana River. Also, we have Senator Okongo Mogeni, who is a senator of Nyamira, eagerly waiting to be joined by Farah Maalim, who is a member of parliament for Dadaab, and also David Cheng, who is a member of parliament for Ugenya. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Gabal. How are you?
Mzuri sana, karibu sana.
Good.
You're running a flu.
No, it's not a flu.
It's not a flu.
It's just something that happens every morning.
Some allergy of sorts?
Allergy, that's the word I was looking
for.
Oh,
the allergy, yeah? I hope it's not really our studio which is instigating this.
It's not. It's something that comes and goes.
Oh, it comes and goes, yeah. So I thought maybe the last time we were here infected you, because I'm running a flu myself.
No.
But it's tapering off on my side, so...
No, it's not. But you're fine?
I'm fine.
Good.
Yeah, same for the flu. And yeah, a bit of some rasping voice. I'm doing good. Yes, good to see you.
Yes, morning.
How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, nice to see you. I hope you also got an invite to go for service in State House yesterday.
I didn't get an invite.
Oh, you didn't?
I know you're a church elder. How come you didn't go there and you're a consummate church elder?
I don't know why that invitation was not extended to me. Nevertheless, I still found time to be in church. So I also saw others were in State House. I hope my friend was there. It's good to pray for the nation. Yeah, it's good to pray for the nation. Yeah, and it was a good Sunday, really, especially coming from church and seeing that performance from Kipchoge.
Yes.
You know, winning marathon and the celebration. It was a very, very inspiring feat. And I hope at 37 we have another Kipchoge rising up, because now that we have in the world maps in athletics, we want someone to take over from him.
Yes.
Yeah, but really this is a legend. It's a legend. Winning
breaking his own
marathon and breaking the record by 30 seconds at 37 years.
Yes.
It's not a small achievement, really.
Indeed.
Yeah. Congratulations to him.
Congrats.
It's made us proud, and we hope we will have a good, befitting welcome for him when he returns back home.
Indeed. Mugatana, you want to congratulate him?
Oh, yes. In fact, I was very, very proud. Very, very proud, because this gentleman, he signifies. That's the one.
Even you're making me to be doubting my pronunciation.
He signifies. That's the one. He signifies the best of us. The country really needs that encouragement. Heroic people that we can look up to. And I think the best way to congratulate huyu mzee akirudi is to make sure that seriously the minister who is going to come in will consider the establishment of sport funds so that we can deliberately plan on raising the next generation, like my colleague senator here and learned friend has said. We need people who are going to take over from Kipchoge. And for us to develop that, let's not do as he did, him struggling alone, making a name alone. Let now the state make it its business to create those winners in a deliberate effort. So I think that's one of the ways we can really say we appreciate you, Kipchoge, and we thank you for what you have done for this country. And I think we should call it the Kipchoge Keino Fund when it is established at the national level, so that we can breed the new athletes into the field. I remember some of these guys, there was a time when they came to approach me and they're telling me, you know, we are training so hard, but for you to run races, you need money. For you to go to camp, you need money. For you to do this, you need money. So there's a whole lacuna there, and some of very good runners are not able to actually register even for races, which can earn them money as they build themselves into champions. So you find in athletics, some people have the advantage of maybe they have sponsors, others they don't have advantage because they don't have sponsors, and that talent is lost. So my prayer for us to honor Kipchoge, I think we should have that fund, and that fund should be able to tap into these young talents which are coming up. They need sponsors to be able to run, to train, to be in camp, and to attend. And it's not for free, because when you go for some of these races, they get paid, and they become professional runners. So I hope the new incoming sports minister we'll take it up from where it is right now.
Indeed, indeed.
Yes.
All right.
But you know, even without that fund, there can be goodwill from our national government, because if you look at the history of Uganda in the past 10 years, because of the motivation, the rewarding by the President Museveni in Uganda, there's a lot of interest now in athletics in Uganda, because Museveni, I think, correctly realized that athletics is a big industry. Yes. You know, it brings in a lot of money. It really turns people who really could not make it in life to become very successful people in terms of the earnings they get. So it really motivates the athletes. If you win an Olympic gold, when you land in Tanzania, you get allocated a government house, you get a brand new V8 given to you by the state in appreciation of that achievement and the honor you have brought to the country. So I think even us as a nation, it's high time we put in place mechanisms of motivating these athletes and putting in place mechanisms of acknowledging that they are really putting the Kenyan map out there in the world and rewarding them. That's why you see now Uganda is really challenging us on mid and long distance races. It's because of that motivation has attracted many runners, to also want to be achievers out there, so that when they come back, they get rewarded. I expect, I may not direct His Excellency the President what he should do for Kipchoge, but I wish he could create time to have even breakfast with him at State House and just give him something from the state coffers in appreciation of this feat he's achieving when he's nearly turning 40. That's one way of motivating the upcoming athletes. Debal, for the first time, we lost 3,000 steeplechase, gold. We didn't win. It went to, I think, is it Morocco? Yeah, so that should be a wake-up call that there's something that is not right. Our athletes are not well motivated. Maybe the training program we have is not really making them to be the champions that we have known them to be. So there's something that needs to be done in recognition of some of this great achievement from our athletes.
Indeed. Yeah. I don't know if I can come in on that.
You should.
Like, I was surprised that after this big achievement, actually the official payment is about 13 million Kenya shillings. I think that's very little. Honestly, I think Kipchoge should be talking about 100 million Kenya shillings. That's about $1 million Kenya shillings, not $100,000. I think we should be talking something like $1 million for him, which should translate to certainly slightly above 100 million. And I have to agree with my learned friend here that I think we should even standardize it, so that people who win Olympic gold, they have these expectations when they return home. If they play football, they win this kind of levels, they have these expectations when they return home. If we did that, I think so many young men and women would want to take up sports in a more serious and more commercial way. And I think people will invest, because if I'm a businessman and I see there is obvious talent on this young man here, and I know that the law is that the moment he wins it's 100 million, then we make an agreement. I tell him it's 50%, I stand for everything. So you'll have even private sector coming in, investing in people. People owning private clubs, if they know that once we win this, it is automatic, there's a charge for it. People will come, private people will come, because the same way you invest in matatus, you invest in buses, you invest in butcheries, you can also invest in talent and say that this gentleman, he is capable of breaking world record. I'm going to do everything for him. And there are people who have that capacity. And I'm telling you, this country will be all the better once I think we have those standards established through legislation. And because those legislations are legislations that are attracting a charge on the Treasury directly, those are bills that should be brought by by the relevant department in government, and in this case the sports department, they should think around it. They should say, in athletics, this is what we're going to do, these are the standards, and immediately you put it like that, people will invest. I know people will invest. Even right now, people are investing. It's just that it's not clear. So people have like private. They say, okay, you know, there's going to be a race in Rome. There's going to be a race in the States in 6 months. If we win, if we come number what, we get this. So let's start training now. So they start putting them in camp and what. But the area is big for investment from private sector.
But I think even Kenya Kwanza, you've been very particularly intent on making sure that the sports sector is given that particular boost, you know, the funding that is necessary, the corruption that is there. We stanch the flow of corruption even in sports, because I know this is where a lot of malfeasance really happens. We've seen what is happening with the football in the country, with the caretaker coming now to save the day as well. Even in this particular sector where we have the athletes as well, we know what has been happening with Riadha House at the end of the day. So we wanted to know, even from your manifesto, I can't really pick out where sports is really centering on Kenya Kwanza manifesto, but I think when you're coming in, it is you to give us a new clean slate to begin from. And honoring Kipchoge will be one of it.
Yes.
When he comes back to the country, even the president himself should come and receive Kipchoge, at the airport while he's back, and we have all pomp and color, popping of the champagne, just to celebrate this man. I think we've never really celebrated Eliud Kipchoge as we should as a country.
I entirely agree. And I really do think that our president, I can't speak for his schedule and his protocol, but I think he knows that he needs to do it, and I think he will be there, because he's that kind of a person, from what I know about him. When it comes to the honor of this country, to celebrating our people, he's one of those. So I believe that, we need to do more, and we need to do more. And because we have clearly set out a sports ministry as Kenya Kwanza,
yes,
I think these are some of the things we will put in force.
Right. Let me just rope in David Cheng. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
We're celebrating Eliud Kipchoge. I don't know if that was your sport as well. We used to run. You look like I used to be a runner. Or we used to play rugby.
No, where come we do sprints?
Sprints?
We do sprints and we do football. Yeah, and so I want to say good morning to everyone here.
Good morning. Good morning.
And to join the panelists in congratulating Mr. Eliud Kipchoge for his very, very serious exploits out there. And I want to agree with you the fact that we've not been able to celebrate him enough. We're not been able to showcase him to the world enough. But this morning, what I want to say as we talk about Kipchoge is that there are so many Kipchoges in the country. And probably Kipchoge has been able to get whatever he's gotten because of not just discipline, but what the Honorable Mungatana has said, the fact that there's so much investment to be made in this.
Yes.
And if you look at his journey, not anybody ordinary would walk Kipchoge's journey. And so the investment that we're talking about that should be made in sports, in my opinion, and it's something I've held for a long time, our investment must start from ground zero, from year 2, year 3, not in Nairobi, not in Riadha House, not at the level where someone has struggled through the hits and the preliminaries, and then he comes up here and then he meets these roadblocks. I tell you that the government has for a long time, not just now, but if you look at the seasonal papers that have been written, the police papers that have been written over time, government knows that investment should be made at the grassroots level. I'll tell you something I'm doing in the constituency that I picked up from the government documents. That you don't spend $500 million building a stadium. If you build, for example, a stadium in Kisumu or in Nairobi or in Kisii or in Kericho, how does that help build talent? It doesn't. What is required is these community academies,
yes,
the community sports centers that start nurturing our young people from, I mean, look at Omanyala. He found his, strength in sprinting later much in life. It's something that I think that would have been recognized or discovered earlier if he had these kind of situations. And that's why I said that there's so many Kipchoges, there's so many Omanyala, there's so many of these people, basketballers, rugby players, who could be recognized, who could be, spotted very much early. And I think that we must invest in that before we even talk about Nairobi and talk about Harambee Stars and the rest. We must be able to have the building blocks coming along and do it honestly and doing meaningfully and doing with the reason that we want to build this as part of our tourism and part of, forex earnings and part of just ensuring that people are able to, put their talents where they belong. Yeah.
Indeed. Kipchoge on a winning trot, and Kenyans, we should celebrate him maybe even a run deeper, like we've always done. We take it just deeper and celebrate this man is done as proud. You remember also when he, Nike, I can't remember that particular Nike event. How did we call it?
Was it under 2 hours?
Yeah, under 2 hours.
Yes.
What was it named? If I can't remember it, it's eluding my mind right now. But that feat that we saw, that was not even human possible. Human possible to do that. He went beyond what the expectations of the world to actually beat those records, as it was. So this is a man that, he should go into the annals of history in this country.
And there's a lot to learn even from his lifestyle, He's a very simple man. He lives a life of humility. In fact, when he's getting back to the country, he's not from a major race, you wouldn't even know that Kipchoge is arriving. He's a man of humility and very disciplined. He strictly follows his diet on what to eat. Of course, he has not gotten himself in the bad ways of life, a lot of alcohol. So there's a lot that we need to tell our young athletes. There are some who break these records in the early 20s and they don't last for more than 3 years or so because of lack of discipline. So I think also Kipchoge should come out and speak to our young stars, our young sportsmen.
Yes.
That this thing requires a lot of personal discipline. Other than the hard work, of course, there are a lot of training. But you also must have a lot of discipline as a person. Watch your lifestyle, watch what you eat.
Indeed.
Don't allow this fame to get into your head so that you get into the bad ways. That way you're able to stay in it for a longer period. He's telling us that even at 37, he's still dreaming of breaking more records. He's not yet done. So this is something that our youngsters should emulate from this legend so that they can also become as successful as Kipchoge. We need to see more Kipchoges.
Fantastic.
Yeah. The word you're looking for was Ineos.
Ineos, yes, Ineos, yeah.
I remember when we were seated, the whole family, my kids, my wife, and we were looking at, and people started crying just because he had just beaten that record. I mean, we were so emotional. So when I saw him yesterday, he was wearing the same stuff with the white, whatever. It's become like, his long sleeved white. It became like his style. And I thought, God help him, and he did it. And we just can't explain it, but he was feeling really good.
Fantastic. Really good. Let's just finalize that. We finalize with Father Malim just also giving his congratulations to Eliud Kipchoge. Father, by the way, you used to run in school yourself. This lanky fellow here, you can imagine. Which sports were you playing? Basketball?
Actually, to be honest, no, I was in soccer.
You in soccer?
Yeah, and then later on in college, a bit of martial arts, judo and karate. But then, he's not only done us proud, he's done the whole continent and the black race very, very proud. The rest of you are much younger than me. There was to be a guy who was a distant runner. The man who held the record, the world record for the distance running was, I think, an Australian. I'm talking about in the 70s and the early 70s and the late 60s. And then his father. The issue was that the black man has a short span of concentration, so we can do very well in short sprints. But when it comes to something to be sustained over a period of time, then of course we do not have the mental. I'm talking about this Darwinian race concept of the dominant race those days, which is the colonialist and the rest. Was that we couldn't sustain that. And there's a guy who was called, I think, Walker, who was the 1 mile guy, and then comes Kipchoge Keino, and another guy, I forget his name, in Tokyo. Then we just came and we burst into the scene and kept on destroying that myth, that white race myth, that anything that takes a long period of time, like a mile and the rest, with the mind and the system of the black man, who they considered to be an inferior race, could not sustain. But because there was this of Jesse Owens, and I don't know if you remember Jesse Owens, who Hitler was there and in Berlin got 4 gold medals, but these were all 100 meters, 200 meters and the relays. But then we burst into the scene and we did what we did. And look at the sun now, what he's doing. The sun is basically from outside this world. So we and by the way, let me tell you one thing. That what you call talent is abundant in all pastoralist areas. One of the things I want to do right now is to create tournaments, not a tournament as such, but races. Yes. In my constituents and other constituents in the north, because our own physical structure, which is very similar to the Kalenjins, you know what I mean, is one that can also be exploited. We can deal with that. I know we cannot do very well in soccer, the way my friend Ocheng and people on this side of because of but pastoralists can do very well in these races. So he's done us proud. He's done us very, very proud. Every time we see him on these things, it's like he's your son, and you really. The father did us very, very proud also. And the guy who ran barefoot, what was his name? There's a guy who ran barefoot when Kipchoge Keino won this race in Tokyo in the 60s. And there's another Kenyan who ran barefoot and also won a race or came second. I can't remember which race it was.
You remember if you were there?
No, the rest of you are not there. The rest of you are not there. You're born much later than that. But then that's when I begin to see that I'm becoming old also myself. But anyway, the reality of the matter is that we are proud. We are very, very proud of this young man.
Thank you.
He has, like his father did to us. Do you know there's one what they call Olympic in London, in which his father was threatened with death if he comes to run. I don't think you can't remember yourself. Omageni, you also can't remember it. But of course, the elderly people who are watching this will remember that they will kill you if you come. And because there was so much racist, they couldn't stand this. And those days, Rhodesia was there. Which Zimbabwe right now, South Africa was under apartheid, and they were basically humiliating us the way they've done it for centuries. I'm talking about the white race. So these black guys come and they do this thing. Oh my God. It was the pride of our moment, yes. The short races, the Americans, the Caribbeans were doing such a fantastic job. And like, Bolt is doing right now, the long races, we dominated, yeah? And I could also say my namesake Farah, Mo Farah also did a good job.
But also the story of Mo Farah, you don't want to go deeper into it as well.
No, I mean, that's normal. I mean,
it's out,
Yeah, but those are very minor things. I mean, when a country goes through what Somalia went through, and everybody's trying to survive. Look at the kind of refugees who are coming from Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan and the rest of it. So it's a very minor thing, to be honest to you. It isn't anything of any significance. He went through hell, but he came out of it a winner the way he did.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, let's back down to the politics of the day, and we just want to revisit what was said by Rigathi Gachagua on Saturday. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has found himself on the receiving end of criticism, again following Saturday's remarks that the Kenya Kwanza government will reintroduce the controversial Shamba system that allowed people to farm inside forests. Environmentalist and Green Thinking Action Party leader Kalua Green criticized Rigathi's remarks, stating that such misinformed statements will be a recipe to claw back on the efforts made to protect forests and water catchment areas in the country. Our reporter, Judah Ben-Hur, tells us more on this, and then we'll also slice and dice that with our panelist. Let's listen in.
Amid an ongoing climate change crisis, worsening drought in 20 out of 23 arid and semi-arid counties, putting almost 4.3 million Kenyans in need of humanitarian assistance by October, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagwa's remarks on farming in forests has left many questioning the rationale of the said proposition.
Pale msituni kulikuwa na Shamba system. Wananchi wanapewa, wanalima mahindi, wanapalilia miti ikiwa kubwa, wanaondoka. Mimi nasema, hii serikali ni yenu. Tumetoa order, wananchi wapewe nafasi walime msitu. Ndio tuongeze chakula kwa Kenya hii.
Forest lazima iexist na wananchi. Uwezi tumia sheria ya bunduki, utumia sheria ya kufunga forest ndio useme forest itachungika. Wananchi waweze kucoexist na forest.
Jukumu letu sasa kama wakaaji wa hapa Kaptagat na Elgeyo Marakwet, tuanze kupanga mkakati jinsi ya kupanda misitu, miti, chakula na hizo zote zinakuja kuuziwa watu wengine ili tupate faida.
Gachagwa's statement seemed to be in contravention of President William Ruto's stand, who during the United Nations General Assembly and his inauguration expressed commitment to adopt methods aimed at reducing the impact of climate change and transitioning to 100% clean energy by 2030.
Many countries now bear witness to the unsettling phenomena of rivers, canals, and water reservoirs that are drying up on account of drought and heat waves occasioned by climate change. Kenya is no exception. The northern arid and semi-arid rangelands of our country have been gravely impacted by drought, whose severity has not been seen or experienced in 40 years.
Environmentalists have called out the Deputy President, stating that leaders should engage in deliberations with experts when weighing in on significant issues such as those of forests, which might end up misleading Kenyans on what is right for the country.
This is not a personal attack to the person in the Deputy President. A solution is easily arrived by consultation. And that kind of consultation is what is needed. As leaders in our country, every statement that we make needs to be backed up by proper research, professional approach, and also, above all, communicated in a very good way that Kenyans may not be able to mistake this to be an opportunity that means abuse.
Coming in at a time when the incoming government is desperate to fulfill its promises of reducing the cost of living, with focus on reducing the price of maize flour, Kalua argues that the government should put its efforts in protecting forests and allocating more funds to the Kenya Forest Service.
For Kenya to achieve a 1% forest cover, we need to plant 580 million trees. This is based on a very scientific process that we recently did, scientists towards the same. So 580 million trees. Secondly, Kenya depletes 150 million trees on an annual basis for energy use. So for us to achieve a 1% forest cover, we need to plant 730 million trees.
Kakamega Senator Boni Khalwale, a member of Kenya Kwanza, took a different stand from Gachagua, tweeting that it will be difficult to disagree with late environmental activist Wangare Maathai, who was against the Shamba system. Maathai said, and I quote, "The Shamba system has been abused, as farmers have been allowed to turn large sections of indigenous forests into farmland, destroying local biodiversity and greatly reducing the capacity for the forest to be effective water reservoirs." Kenya currently has a tree cover of 12.1%, a target former President Uhuru Kenyatta mandated the Kenya Forest Service to raise to 30% by 2050. Judah Ben-Hur, KTN News.
All right, of course, that particular development is sparking a lot of reactions from environmentalists. And also this was castigated heavily by the late Professor Wangari Maathai, of course, laureate Nobel Prize winner. And we want just to find out what is the rhyme or reason of coming up with this particular, of course, reasoning from the Deputy President right now. Of course, we know the country is facing food security, but at the same time, we are on the cusp of, the climate emergency in the world. And I know also climate emergency is one of the key pillars in your Kenya Kwanza manifesto. Don't you think this is really flying in the face of your manifesto? Because once you have also crop inside the forest as well, the biodiversity and the ecology just of the forest itself changes completely.
I think the value directed to me.
Yes, because you're the face of Kenya Kwanza here. and David Jing as well. Let's just begin with the Kenya Kwanza because we've been fronting this. What is the rhyme and reason for this?
So for me, a decision of the President, Article 135 of the Constitution tells us, must be in writing. It must bear the seal of the presidency. So, did we receive a communication as a decision of the presidency? Was there an executive order to that effect? No. So, what was the Deputy President doing? The Deputy President was throwing in his thoughts on what could help in terms of improving food production. Now, in Kenya, again, the Constitution protects our views, whatever they are. You don't have to agree with me. So whatever the Deputy President has said is thinking. But is it a formal decision that has been communicated to us? Like Mr. Kalua here, the party leader for the Green Thinking Party, was saying no. So is it something that we can say it is binding us, it is what? No. So what I'm thinking is that let us just have this debate. And he has thrown in his thoughts. And then there will be a proper research done. And I think people like the party leader of the Green Thinking Party can help, and others, to bring in the thinking that is there that should inform our policy. But I know from our standpoint, the party is of the view that we should increase our forest cover. That is what we are saying in our manifesto. As to whether these forests can coexist successfully with the Shamba system is a question that needs to be debated. Professor Wangari Maathai's viewpoint was that it cannot, it has been abused. But, we're having this debate now, again. A decision, according to me, Article 135, has not been invoked. So we can take it that we are having a debate on that issue, and the reaction of Kenyans, the reaction of those who are in that field of environment is welcome, because it will inform the thinking of the new minister for environment who is coming in, and the policies that we should effect. So my thinking is that let us not hit the DP too much on that. He is allowed to say what he is allowed to say, and then you are also allowed to say what you are allowed to say. But at the end, we have to have a decision which will come when the minister in charge will be in place. Thank you.
To me, it doesn't really sound like he's just allowed to say what he has to say. It sounds that that was very declarative. It's not really a broadside declaration here. He says we have issued an order that Kenyans be allowed to do farming in the forest so that we can increase food production in the country.
Debal, I believe
we have issued an order.
Debal.
Tell me, how will a villager try and segregate what is an order and what is a suggestion? To them, this is a rallying call to go to the forest and start farming in the forest.
Let me get back to you again. Article 135 of the Constitution says when the president issues an order, and in this case, he was exercising those powers because he is within the presidency. It has to be written and accompanied by a seal of the government.
I agree.
This has not been done.
But why make the pronouncement? Then he says, while asking Kenyans not to act on the order. not to act on the order until
the minister,
Dr. Ruto's administration, puts in place a new environment cabinet secretary.
So you can see it's a question of wording. But it's clear that once the minister is in place, that's when those proposals of his will be, I think, subjected to scientific thinking, and then and then also, please, it's sometimes I think you need to see that we are also coming from an election mood towards government. There's a transition that is happening. So sometimes we may not do everything according to the way it should be done. But seriously speaking, I think a pronouncement like that should be subjected to heavy scientific thinking, to a heavy, well-researched decision. I agree with Kalua, and a decision that comes like that should be in writing. A decision that comes like that should bear the seal of the presidency so that we know the responsibility. But when you see that he is arguing a point and he's saying, let the minister be in place, then let's understand that there is something he is trying to communicate to us, that yes, this system used to work, and we would want to see it happening. But let's wait for the minister. I think that's the gist of the thing. That's why he's not telling us, let's invade the Shambas, because we know also what happens when the Shambas are invaded.
Allow us to take a short break. When we take a short break, of course, we shall hear from Okongo Mogini as well, David Ocheng and Farah Malim on this new pronouncement by the Deputy President. Well, we're trying to decipher here, was it a broadside declaration or an order that he's issued, and also urging Kenyans or imploring Kenyans not to really act on it until we have an installment of a new environment minister for environment. Right, we take a short break right now.